This is the Old South Meeting House, the largest building in colonial Boston, and the stage for some of the most dramatic events leading up to the American Revolution. Built as a Puritan meeting place in 1729, the Old South Meeting House stands today as one of the nation's most important colonial sites.
Old South became the site of massive public protests against British actions in colonial Boston from 1768 to 1775. Patriots and Loyalists met to argue on a wide range of issues, whether to fight the conscription of colonial sailors into the British Navy or to examine the events leading to the Boston Massacre of 1770.
Yet it was December 16th, 1773, that sealed Old South's fate as one of this country's most significant buildings, when over 5,000 men crowded into the meeting house to debate Britain's controversial tea tax. As the final attempt at compromise failed, Samuel Adams gave the signal that started the Boston Tea Party. The Sons of Liberty followed his lead, marched to the harbor, and dumped 342 chests of tea into the icy sea. And the rest, as they say, is history. This is the famous Old North Church. Built in 1723, this is the oldest standing church in the city of Boston. I'm here in the bell-ringing chamber of the Old North Church, the site where, at 15 years old, Paul Revere himself was a bell ringer. Now, to many, the Old North Church is more than an historic church building. It was the site that launched the American Revolution, with Paul Revere's midnight ride on April 18th, 1775. Listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere. On the 18th of April in 75, hardly a man is now alive who remembers that famous day and year.
He said to his friend, "If the British march by land or sea from the town tonight, hang a lantern aloft in the belfry arch of the North Church Tower as a signal light. One if by land and two if by sea. And I on the opposite shore will be ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm, for the country folk to be up and to arm."
On that evening in 1775, Paul Revere was given the task of riding to Lexington, Massachusetts with the news that British troops were about to march into the countryside northwest of Boston. Revere contacted a friend and instructed him to show lanterns here in the tower of the Old North Church as a signal. 2 lanterns meant that the British troops planned to row by sea across the Charles River to Cambridge, rather than march by land out the neck of Boston.
Revere went to Charlestown across the river and informed the Sons of Liberty. He made sure they could see the lanterns as signals in the North Church Tower. Revere then borrowed a horse and set off about 11 p.m., informing houses and a militia throughout the countryside. "The British are coming! The British are coming!" He arrived in Lexington sometime after midnight and went to the house where Samuel Adams and John Hancock were staying. About 12:30, Revere traveled on to Concord to make sure the military stockpiles had been properly hidden away. Along the way, he was intercepted by a British patrol and his horse was taken. Left alone on the road, Paul Revere returned to Lexington on foot, just in time to witness the first battle of the American Revolution on Lexington Green.